Good morning. I have been learning maths. I have no idea why it's called that in the United Kingdom, or perhaps in non-America. But I think it's funny, so I prefer to say it that way. Maths. Today we'll be learning about maths. like there's more than one math. It's like, what are we learning about? Dogs. Is there more than one math? Is math related to science? I'm trying to figure out some more contour stuff in OpenSCAD, and where the non-programmer's CAD kind of excels is you can just kind of grab faces with your mouse and your keyboard and go, yeah, move it around, reaching your noodly appendage in and pushing things around, molding clay and sculpting in 3D space. While OpenSCAD, the programmer's CAD program, is just like, what do the numbers what do the numbers mean? What do the numbers mean? I forget what his name is. I'm almost remembering. What do the numbers mean? Mason. What do the numbers mean, Mason? So now I have to figure out all the math to describe the stuff that I've been kind of eyeballing for a long time. Like, this is pretty close. Although working on that KiCad switch footprint position calculator thing did give me kind of a renewed interest, or actually opportunity, I suppose, to revisit all my trigonometry and I guess I would say relearn. I don't know. So I liked geometry, I should say. Yeah, I like geometry. And I took Algebra 2 trig. I think I took it like 3 times and failed it every time. No, wait. I think the first time I passed, but the second time I was like, yeah, I don't think I got any of it. So I took it again, I think, and then I failed that time and failed the next time after that. And I liked trig. It was just slowly rolling through the intersection, even though we're making eye contact, and you have the right of way. Me and Algebra 2 just slowly rolling through the intersection together. I liked trig. It was interesting. But I failed it not due to lack of interest, but because I had other stuff going on. School was not a big priority at that point, or the point later on when I tried it again. Actually, that's right. The first time I took the class, I was basically gone for the second half. Somehow I managed a C out of that, or a D or something. But here I am. Somehow. Well, it's not necessarily like, that's the thing. It's like your grades are not an indication solely of proficiency. Actually, you could probably say your grades are not an indication of efficiency or proficiency, full stop. Testing probably is a means of testing proficiency or determining proficiency. As long as you don't know what the answers of the test are, or haven't tested those exact questions before. And determining proficiency is difficult, but like the fault was not, well, likely the fault was not mine. Yeah, there was other stuff going on, so I can't sit here and say, yeah, it was I loved trig, but my teachers were bad. I did love trig, but I just wasn't interested in learning at that point. So now I'm learning all this stuff now, and it's very interesting to me. I actually have application for it. So that's the cool thing. It's like when you have application for it, when you put things in a context that is interesting, you're like, oh, well, now I want to learn about this. You know, a friend of mine's a big gun guy. He was talking about teaching himself or learning some calculus for ballistics. He wanted to learn about it because it was in his wheelhouse. That's the most natural learning you can possibly have. And it's the best because you're interested in it, and what you're learning has context. You know what it's about and why it exists. And if you would have asked me, well, why do you want to learn about this trig stuff? I would have said, I don't know, I'm probably never ever going to use it. And here I am using it pretty commonly and frequently. And I'm finding out new applications for it. I would, at this point, it would probably be, 38. Gotta think about it. Yeah. I'm 38, and at this point, I'm like, taking a college course or two would probably be a good thing. There are some elements, like I've talked about before, it took me a long time to learn the electrical engineering, and I still don't think I know it very well. That stuff, I probably would have benefited from going a more structured route. One of the perhaps very few things that I would have benefited from more structure, because I normally just hop into things and kind of figure them out and then get that deeper understanding later on, perfect that understanding. But I couldn't even get in the shallow end of the electrical engineering pool, so it just took way too long. I had, of course, at that point discounted any kind of formal education, which is obviously, embrace the power of and. Either college is perfect or college is useless. Yeah, there's probably a bit of a gray area in there, brother. But that brings up, I have some very, very ridiculous memories from school, but it brings up the idea of teaching just in general. Like the engineering perspective on teaching is like, I'm going to open the instructional manual for how to learn maths, or this particular type of math, how to learn dog. We're going to learn about dog today. Maths. Right. Are there more than one maths? There probably are at this point, technically. There's like 9 maths. There's at least 9. You open the book, it's a very didactic, perhaps? Didactic method of, like, I'm going to read this book to you, and after I'm done reading the book to you, you will have the ability to understand these concepts. What is it? Doing with objects makes symbols. Let's think a little bit. That's not teaching. It's not teaching, and it's not learning. Reading something at you is not teaching. Especially, that's like skiing. Like, I went skiing. Oh, what did you do? Well, I put on the skis. I went to the top of the hill, and someone pushed me, and I made it to the bottom of the hill, and my skis were still on. I have skied, technically. You have no proficiency. You have no understanding, but technically, doesn't matter. Still skied. And the idea that reading from a book and working off a worksheet, a series of worksheets, is teaching. Is the dynamic act of helping someone to understand concepts and ideas, imparting not knowledge, but I guess technically you are imparting understanding. You're building understanding. That is the dynamic action of teaching. It's not reading a book. If it were reading a book, you could change out all the teachers, save a lot of money by changing out the teachers with someone who knows how to read and has zero formal education. It's all so tiresome. So it's fantastic. It's amazing that my oh, that's another point. Like the whole teacher thing, like we put them up on a pedestal to the point that we sure what you call them. I guess we kind of idolize them, kind of. Like anyone says anything bad about a teacher or teachers, see, we're going to learn about teacher. There's more than one. Like whenever you talk about it, people are always like, "Oh yeah, I'll never forget that one teacher, or that one teacher and the other teachers, two teachers that really changed my whole educational vector, like changed how I think, changed how I learn, like changed my life, really." And to say, at least in America, that one teacher, those two teachers made the huge difference in my life, is neglecting the other 80 teachers that you had over the course of your school career who were so terrible as to be completely and utterly forgotten. And if you were to go down a list of teachers from the beginning to the end, you'd probably have a slew of negative memories about everyone pretty much except those two. It's an overall terrible experience. And for people to wax nostalgic about the one teacher that was good, which even just making that statement, like, oh yeah, but schools are just fine. We need the public schooling. I remember one teacher that was good. This is not proving your point, sir. I feel very, very blessed with the opportunity to have my wife homeschooling our kids, and being able to, like, well, I was going to say pivot, but like to care enough to pivot, to try to teach a kid one way, and then the next kid is like, I'm not really getting it. Like, all right, let's try something different. And the formal, in most cases, the formal structured education does not allow for that. At least, like I said, at least in America. This is I forget what it is. Is it John Gatto? The model, it's a primarily it's like a Russian or a Belarusian model of education. I forget what it is, but it's just, it doesn't work. And if it does work, it just barely functions. Oh, it's also rather amusing at this point because like just like the knee-jerk reaction to or knee-jerk response to the public schools aren't very good is, well, I had one good teacher. The knee-jerk reaction to homeschooling is, oh, but how will your kids socialize? How will they talk to other children? How would they make words come out of their mouth? How do they know what the experience is? And what's funny is if you prod at these questions enough, you usually get the experience of people trying to hurt you or harm you or diminish you. You know, like teenage girls committing suicide due to bullying is not a feature of public school. That is not something desirable or to be emulated. But the funny part about that now is that the public schools in America have all the, I shouldn't say in America, I try to say out of it because it's so ridiculous. But the public schools now are have like dividers set up. They're not allowed to talk to people. Everyone's got their face covered, which we're essentially having, you know, I'm talking to you, but you can't really see how much I'm smiling or what my face is doing. And like, oh, I did a study. Kids with more screen time have less empathy because they can't read emotions on faces because they're looking at a screen rather than looking at another person's face. And we go, okay, cool. What does that mean if we mask them then? And it's like, shut up. So, teaching, maths. Teaching is not teaching. You know, didactic reading a book or handing out pamphlets is not teaching. Creating ridiculous authority figures and telling your kids to pay attention to them, because on the job site, you're going to have idiots telling you what to do. Like, again, these are not features to be emulated. I just wish it could have been different, but I'm glad to have the opportunity to make it different for my kids, for whatever the next generation is going to be. And judging by how this generation is being raised in the popular sense, in the popular social sense at this point, my kids are probably going to be basically wizards and magicians. Like, I am able to make eye contact with you and talk with you for an extended period of time. How? All right, that's all I got. Maths.